We'll do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, the three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And it is welcome to Mitch, to George, to Buramag, and to everybody at home. Hope you are all well on this Halloween night. Joe might have a few technical issues. He's switched to his phone now. We can see you, Joe. Can we hear you?
I don't know, you tell me, can you?
Yeah, that's fine. We can hear you. Good stuff, mate. That'll do. Fantastic. A little bit of information on fixtures. Tom Dixon kindly puts it in the chat, as you know. Man United versus Newcastle has been selected as the only Boxing Day fixture. It's going to be an 8 o'clock live on Sky Sports. Already my WhatsApp groups are going crazy about that, to be honest. Tuesday the 30th of December, 7:30, Burnley versus Newcastle. Sky Sports again. Wednesday, 7th of January, kickoff. Is at 8:15, Newcastle versus Leeds United. Again, another Sky Sports fixture. And Newcastle against Crystal Palace is on Sunday, 4th of January. That's 3 o'clock kickoff. And don't forget, there'll be an FA Cup game crammed into the middle of that as well somewhere. So, yeah, that's your fixture update. But the only Boxing Day fixture, Newcastle United, 8 o'clock at Manchester United. A real cracker that one will be. Okay, where do we start tonight? Well, something which I haven't talked about all week is the training ground ban. Well, they say ban. The club put a statement out this week, Mitch, asking supporters not to go up to the training ground, blocking the road. Now, I had heard about this. I'm not going to read out the statement from the club. Yeah, as we know, your dad doesn't live too far from there, but it has become a common occurrence for, and we've seen it on YouTube. We've seen it on Sky when Keith Downey's out there, Pete Graves. Lots of kids there. They want to meet their idols. They want to see the players. We know a lot of them do just want to do that. We know there's a few unscrupulous members of the public go up there to get stuff to sell on eBay or to sell on to collectors, to sell in other ways, shapes or forms. But there seems to have been an incident this week, nothing confirmed or denied, which has prompted this. And it came at the start of half-term week, which of course is going to be a busy time up there. I took the opportunity to listen to Adam Pearson's video on this because Adam, caters for the younger crowd on YouTube and far as Newcastle fans are concerned. And I did notice a little bit of flack going his way, which isn't uncommon on social media. And it's not his fault. He does go up there. I know some people have, said it's his fault. It's not his fault. He does go up there. He reports from the ground when the training ground when he wants to. But I listened to what he had to say, and it was interesting because that gave me. I'd already thought about doing this, but I thought I can't go in half cocked and not know what I'm talking about. And he gave an indication that a lot of the kids are going up to the top of the street, pressing the traffic lights. And of course, that means that when the players are getting up there, then the car's got to stop. So that tag team, and they're working in teams, and like stopping the car, getting in front of the car, and it's like it's like a business really. But it's can you understand where the club are coming from on this? Because we are from the era, which again Adam tipped his hat to, of Maiden Castle, where Keegan encouraged the players to go and sign everything. Stay out till you're freezing cold, son, and sign everything, because these people are very important. The fans are the most important thing about the club. We've gone from that, where it wasn't uncommon to have a couple of thousand people up there watching the lads train, to a very insular thing, and something which now is only in touching distance if the club arrange an event for a certain handful of people via the membership scheme or whatever. So there isn't an opportunity. And again, I want to point to Adam Pearson, because his video was good on this. He does travel, he goes abroad to these friendlies. He's been to the USA, he's been to the Middle East, he's done the trip to Asia in the summer. And he said that there isn't a chance really, even for those expats or new supporters, if you like, to get close to the players either. There isn't an opportunity for that. And he even as a young Newcastle United supporter said it is quite important. He feels it's important for the players as well as the fans to almost have that kind of connection, to be able to do that. So it's created a talking point. I've seen lots of people exchanging views on it, but nobody's had a chance to exchange the view on this panel about it. I thought I would keep it for Friday night. So over to you, Mitch. What do you think about it? Because has it all changed beyond all belief now, and this isn't something that's ever gonna happen?
Number of thoughts of what you've just said. Try and download a few. My initial thoughts are accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
When you look at what's going on at the end of that road and the access road, it's not a great access road. The amount of times you see cars coming and going and surrounded by kids, it is dangerous. So whatever has happened or come close to happening, I'm probably amazed it hasn't happened before now, if that's the case. Yes, you're quite right, and it's a very valid point, that when Keegan was here and we used Maiden Castle, we had this openness, but that openness was exceptionally unique. But you also have to remember that was, and if you listen to the entertainer speaking about it, there's an interview recently with Bez and David Ginola talking about when Ginola arrived and he's getting changed next to some bloke who's off to play squash.
It's great, and it's a great story, that.
And he couldn't understand it because he'd come from PSG with a private training ground and totally different facilities, and then he's getting changed in the change room with some bloke with a squash racket, and he's like, "Oh, who the hell's he?" He's like, "Well, he's off to play squash." And you're right, it's a great story. Bez may be joining us at the Dubai Mag's coming up soon, by the way, as a little heads up. We're going to have a good Q&A with him going
Stick
forward.
some money in the pot for what he'll be drinking.
Oh, we're getting a party together to look after him, mate.
Get him on the Jaegers and send the videos over.
Will do. It's an interesting to say there isn't the opportunity to meet players and there isn't an opportunity to do things. Adam's quite wrong on that. And he's been to one. He was sat on the same table as us in Riyadh when supporter services were trying to work out how you do meet and greets with players and things like that. There's probably not enough of them, and I think they're still working out how to make them work properly, like many things within supporter services and how you're getting access. And yes, I think it is important that you try and create as many opportunities for younger fans and newer fans to engage with the players, but hanging around outside the training ground waving, signs, etc., and putting yourself in the danger of moving traffic probably isn't the way to do it. I think it's a very good point there. Of course, the players know that. Listen to people like Bruno talk a few weeks But I do understand the desire to have more interaction with the players in a different setting. But we're also in a different era in terms of clubs don't want as many people around the training ground because there's a number of documented incidences of spying going on. And in an era of things like drones and high power magnification lenses that'll fit easily in pockets, they want nobody anywhere near a training ground, so there's no information can be gleaned at all. Yes, that sounds very secret squirrel and high power, but that's the way it is, and that's the way they are now. It is not the same. It's not Keegan's era. It's not that time. We were very lucky to have that level of interaction and to have a manager and an owner at the time who was very keen to push that connection in as many ways as possible. And it's up to the owners now to find ways to make that happen. Because if somebody like Adam feels there isn't enough opportunity to engage with players, if somebody who goes to nearly, every event there is, he's there, and if he feels that that's not enough, then maybe there is something that needs to be discussed. As an expat, I see what they're doing with, former players and sending former players out for Q&As. Shea Gibbon was out with the Singapore Mags not so long ago, and that was official. That was part of their official supporters club set up, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. But that's still being rolled out. And I still see in interactions on my social media that there are fans at home that get upset because things are being done for expat fans that aren't being done for fans at home. And that's maybe a scenario where the club can't win. And certainly since I've become an expat, my attitude's changed very different to it. I wish I'd understood the expat supporters groups more when I was chair of the trust, for example. I really do. Understanding the place in the wider world and seeing what's happening and seeing how since I've been expat that Newcastle United is growing. Here's a good one. This year's something I never thought would happen out here in Dubai. We used to meet in another bar called Brooklyn Bar, and we moved on to UBK because we outgrew it. Do you know which supporters group now meets in Brooklyn Bar? Man United.
No. Always in our shadow.
Exactly. And I've never ever in my time out here thought I would see that. And I think that's a reflection on how we are grown as a club internationally too. And one thing that Adam's quite right about, then you need to foster those relationships and the connections with the clubs as much as they can. But I think the club did a hell of a lot in pre-season this season in Singapore and Korea. Why everybody couldn't work out how we got the Terrace Icons stuff out here before it was released in the club shop. It was excess stock apparently that was taken out to Korea and they didn't want to bring back to Europe. And it ended up in the Middle East through Adidas emerging markets. I found that out eventually through somebody that knew. So, and again, I think that's part of our growth as a club. And fostering and finding as many ways to engage as possible. And most certainly, I wouldn't want anybody flying all the way from Osaka, say, and that their only opportunity to go and interact with the lads is to stand at the end of a cold road about half a mile from my dad's house, pressing a pedestrian crossing to make the cars stop. I think there's got to be a better way than that, that's for sure.
Do you think some of it comes from the stuff that we saw in the summer? There was a bit of abuse being given to our former number 14, because of his training individually. Do you think
in the modern world, the one thing I would say, understanding how modern professional footballers work, I bet there would be seen as a security risk. Because I think there was plenty of people would have stuck one on Isaac's chin end if they'd got the chance at one stage. And so, you know, and I have to be serious in that, you know, okay, I'm joking, but, you know, if from a club point of view, risk assessment and security assessments are exceptionally important. And, you know, the training ground is, you know, private land. That access road is not great. That's why I said right at the start the words accident waiting to happen were very close to the tip of my tongue. Because I'm amazed nothing's happened before now. Really. And yes, they've probably made the announcement knowing half term is on the way and they're going to have more younger people hanging around. And that's... And the thing I would say, you know, with football supporters, younger football supporters, again, let's go back to the days when I was chair of the trust, trying to have to explain to somebody from Greater Manchester Police why a coach of our lot had gone mental in services and sprayed beer everywhere and done this and done that. You know, there's always a moment where enthusiasm for support spills over and it's rarely intentional. And it's rarely with any, you know, malice intent. But God forbid somebody gets hurt by one of the players running over their leg or something like that, coming out of the ground. I think, you know, that has to be dealt with. And if there's even a vague risk of that, you know, then it has to be managed. And again, I think we have so many of our players in this group understand what the connection's all about. The club city community trisomy, which is such a strong thing and part of the uniqueness of Newcastle United. And they do get it. And we're lucky to have that. And we're lucky to have that fostered within the squad, not just from the manager and this coaching staff, but from some of the players themselves. That leadership group. We've got to be really thankful for that. And so, you know, I think the club's right to raise concerns and try and manage it as best they can. And I think, you know, the statement's nothing controversial. It's very straightforward. The timing, obviously, for the half-term holidays. And if there's been a near miss or something like that, then they've got to do something about it. They have to act.
Okay, I mean, when I was younger, you know, I used to go to the match, you know, I used to go up to the ground, Joe, and, you know, I used to queue up before the match or queue up after the match, trying to get autographs of players coming out of the ground. Of course, it was a lot more accessible then. And, you know, I did enjoy it as a kid. You know, there was nothing better than filling your autograph book. So I can understand that kind of need for young supporters to want to go up and do this. But, you know, some people are trying to apply that this is a heavy-handed tactic by the club. Would you know, has society changed? I'm seeing people mentioning, you know, the weapons are a thing these days. You know, there's nothing stopping somebody who's not, you know, not going up there with the right intent could harm a player. So, I mean, you know, of course, this is the worst possible scenario, but I guess that's what the club have to look at as well. What's your feelings on this, mate? Because it is an interesting debate.
So, yeah, I think there's an assumption, Steve, that everybody that gathers round those gates is a Newcastle United fan, and I think it's a short-sighted assumption. You know, for the way that society's gone, and let's not get into that debate. You know, it's not a politics show, but you can understand why that security suddenly becomes you know, an issue. If something has happened, I would hope that the football club comes out and tells us that something that's happened, so it's less of an own goal. We've talked for years, haven't we, about the need for communication, the need for openness, the need for honesty. If there's a statement that just says nobody can congregate outside the training ground anymore, full stop, that's slightly short-sighted. You know, I'm not willing that something's happened or that someone's had an accident, but I think if you give the rationale as to why decisions have been made, people will understand it a little bit more. but you've got people driving big, massive, powerful cars, and you've got children potentially running out into the road. And, you know, it is an accident waiting to happen, isn't it? I think the challenge, of course, is, and going back to the world, you know, the world that we grew up in, accessibility was far easier than it is now. It's interesting you talk about St James's Park. I took Jessie, my youngest, to the game on Wednesday night, and I was kind of showing her outside the Milburn stand. You know, I said, imagine this bit wasn't here, this big fancy bit wasn't here. The players used to park the car along there. I remember when David Kelly stood on my new trainers and I got a winder for it. But they were there. These were your heroes. They were right there. They were accessible. You could get at them. Digital world now, the club do loads and loads of stuff kind of, you know, via their social media feeds. You know, it's constant kind of videos released via kind of Instagram and Snapchat and things like that. It's not the same though. These are your heroes, and they were literally in touching distance. So modern football, not just Newcastle United, I think has got a bit of a challenge, hasn't it? You know, you've just rightly said, Steve, we're fortunate enough to go there, and back in the good old days, it was easier to get in to see your heroes. Opportunities are less and less and less now for young fans, and I think, how do you make their day? How do you get them to meet their idols? You know, the training ground is a quick win, but it's got to be safe, and it has to be safe for the footballers, safe for the staff of Newcastle United, but obviously safe for the public as well. And if you've got people messing about with traffic lights and, you know, actually interfering with the direction of travel, of traffic and all the rest of it, something's going to go badly wrong. Maybe this is partly why we're looking at new training facilities for accessibility alone, never mind actually the equipment and the pitches once we get in there. So it's a big problem. It is a big problem. You know, I think in my day, I'd have us all stood back round, you know, the pitch, watching the training going on. You know, there were magical times. But as Mitch has rightly said, you know, the game's moved on. You're talking about multi-millionaire athletes now. And all it takes is for one idiot, one bandit to kind of, you know, get on the training park and do something they might later regret. It brings the whole game into kind of question. So I don't know what we do. Do we arrange more meet and greets? Is there a space where young people could congregate that isn't on a public highway, for example? You know, could certain individuals be nominated to go out, you know, and do it in a controlled manner? Might take away some of the magic, but at least they're still getting access to their heroes. But for now, I think when I saw the story this morning, I think I was just thinking, I wonder why. And I thought we were in a place now where we were getting told why decisions were being made. Maybe just maybe not. So I don't know. I think there's work to do. I think the club have got a challenge. We're wanting to kind of reach out further and wider and get more fans, start them even younger, get them in the black and white stripes. But you don't get access to your heroes. So what do we do? Anyone would think we need a 90,000 seater stadium.
I mean, I can go back to the 80s as well, when I was a bit older, George, and you know, Newcastle United Supporters Club used to be based on you know, just over the road from Percy Street, where Marks and Spencer's is now, that little row of shops. And Sadie and Ken used to go and have their end of season do at the club, and you know, you get a chance to meet the players. I've got some great photographs of one particular year, 88, 89, where Newcastle just missed out on promotion, and Mick Quinn came along, John Gallagher came along, John Anderson, Mark McGee, Ray Ranson, virtually the whole team that almost got us into the first division came along that night, and it was great. You know, it was a great opportunity, and it was a private do for the supporters club, and the supporters club was independent to the club as well. So it was a great opportunity for us to meet the players. But I mean, that kind of thing, okay, I understand. It's, you know, they're big superstars now. They're worth millions of pounds, and you know, it doesn't seem to happen. But what's your feeling about this as a whole, George?
Well, it's to me, it's understandable. But could I say, if only the digital camera had been 50 years before, I could have got some lovely pictures. But never mind, that's another issue. And like you, I used to go and stand outside the ground in the hope I would get some autographs of both home and away teams. And I think I've still got a couple of old autograph books up in the loft that have people like Wilson, the World Cup fullback when he played for Huddersfield, and people like that. So it's always been a great thing. But in this one, for me, the club's between a rock and a hard place, and got to do something. The furore, if someone, player, member of staff, or anybody else, was to injure a child involved in that sort of scramble, that you'd hear the squeals all the way around the world. It would really be something that would be difficult to overcome. And I can understand the club being between a rock and a hard place, because the easy issue, people would say, well, just put gates on the road. They cannot. It's a right of way. It's a bridle path. The part where the players go down and then turn into the training ground, that's Newcastle United. But the road where they turn in is still a right of way, still a bridle path. And at the end, it continues as a bridle path down the side of the training ground. And that's where people were caught videoing training sessions and all of that sort of thing. And I forget which manager it was. He had some hoardings made. So when they did their final training before the game, he used to put those up so people couldn't even see the pitch. And I think we still have that capability, I understand, at Long Benton. But that's not the issue here. The issue for me is how the club deals with it. And I think they've got to be imaginative. Something else for a new CEO to think of, perhaps. But is it such a big job? I mean, even when in half term, when there's so-called a lot of kids there, there'll barely be over 1,000, 2,000 maximum. Is it not beyond the wit to put a cage or some sort of structure in the car park that the kids could go into, and for the players coming out of training, and persuading the players to go for 10 minutes before they go home to sign a few books and so on? It seems to me that's one issue. The issue of pressing traffic lights, though, can you imagine the furore if there was to be an accident there, either with a car or with a child or with an adult, over the fact that people had been pressing traffic lights to stop cars? You would never hear the end of it. And I like Newcastle United, I think that's the last thing I would want to see. In fact, it would be a disgrace if it happened. So I think for me, the instruction there has to be to the players, hasn't it? Do not, under any circumstances, open your window. Let them look in, but do not open the window, and that'll discourage the autograph hunters, because that's all they want. And you both, I think you and Joe, well, you all did, raise the security issue. The security issue is that we're assuming that all these kids are Newcastle United supporters, they cheer them on. Well, are they really? In the current way things are going, in all centres of life, how the wrong un can sneak in with the right uns and cause absolute mayhem. And it's not an impossibility. So I do see, because of where I live and knowing the places as well as I do, what a rock and a hard place the club's in. You see, even the road we're talking about, it's only had tarmac on since just after Ashley bought the place. So it's not been a road all the time. It was just a clouty farm track, because it was a right of way and a bridle path. It's only in those few years that it's had some tarmac put down since the club started to get serious about the training ground, and that's in Ashley's time. So it's a difficult one, but I don't think it's beyond the wit of man. As I say, Neil's right. I only live half a mile away from where we're talking about, and on a morning, even if they're not on holiday, every morning there'll be a troop of kids go past the end of my path, onto the path that goes over the railway line and straight to the back of the training ground. They can go that way, and then they go along and up the side of the training ground onto that road we're talking about. So it's open access, and that's even when they're not at school. I've often said to the teachers that I used to be chairman of governors at schools, if they were having trouble getting kids at the school in the morning, I used to say to them, "You never have anybody walk up the training ground at Benton to have a look and see how many of yours is up there," because it's a steady stream, and of course at half term. Not only will I see them, I'll hear them sometimes before I even get out of bed. There'll be clutches of them heading up that way. And I'd be the last person that's discouraged them to want to see their heroes and talk to their heroes. It just needs a bit of careful thinking and planning, and as far as I'm concerned. And as I said, an off-the-cuff suggestion for me would be that car park at the training ground is enormous. Why not at the back of it? Raise a pen or whatever, and let the kids go in there and wait until the players finish training. If the kids know that they're going to come and talk to them 10 minutes after they finish training, it might reduce the number that are hanging around at the end of the road hoping to catch them. But the club, obviously do their best to try. And as far as I know, I've not seen any instruction to players to keep their windows shut. But I certainly would have that instruction for the traffic light thing. That is just going a bit too far. Other things about meeting your heroes. Well, there are now a number of well-run football academies in various parts of North Tyneside. Could have not arranged the odd session where a minibus full of players went and spent an hour at one of them every week? There's lots of thought we could put into it, and it is important. They're the future. Although the way that pricing and seating's going, you make you wonder if they'll ever be the future. Except I agree with Joe said in a flippant way about the 100,000 stadium. I think that's what we'll end up with. I'm still stuck on that one, but never mind. It's important we do it and give them the opportunity. Alan Pearson does a good job, in my opinion. He floats the young outlook thing and does it quite well. The other thing is, from a personal point of view, I can remember still on that fateful Saturday afternoon as a 15-year-old being taken to a ground in Wallsend to play for the third team, Newcastle A team, and walking into the dressing room with Benny Craig, who was my coach then, and saying to the man who was running that team, the manager, "Jackie, here's your left back." Well, Jackie was Jackie Milburn. It took me 20 minutes to breathe, never mind play football, because I was standing in front of Jackie Milburn. And I know that's how the kids will be now. It's so important. It shouldn't be neglected, but it needs a bit of careful thinking. And I'm not making excuses for Newcastle United. I know from where I live and about the area, they're in a rock and a hard place. It's a right of way that the council won't let them close. It's a bridle path which it would be legal to close, and it leads onto open land, an open pathway down the side of the training ground. So if they do anything, it's got to be within their curtilage. It can't be outside. It's got to be in their curtilage. And my simple suggestion would be is to just set a pen up inside the car park, the back of the car park where the cars aren't, where they could put the kids in and let them see their heroes.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no right or wrong to this. There's no answer to it as far as meeting the players is concerned, and we are living in a different time now. But it would be nice to do that. However it was organised, and however these people were picked, the club could do it on their own terms. There's no doubt about it. But let's see what happens. Even doing one of those training sessions at Newcastle United at some point, and just getting the fans, the players going around and maybe signing something at the front for the fans. Yeah. But I don't know. There's the problem with that is there's always going to be somebody disappointed. But I think even at the club, I don't know, pinged something out to young kids, and pre-signed everything and gave it to them, and they got a chance to get a photograph with the players or something, because that way it would get rid of this whole getting it autographed for, going on the internet or whatever, But I mean, listen, we've spoke about it. You've given your opinion. Been lots of opinions in the chat as well. It's always something to think about. But would have been remiss of me not to cover that tonight.
One last thing, Steve. Sorry, I couldn't help but look at Jose Mourinho with the Benfica team. How when he first came into the ground, he went and signed every autograph he could, and when he came out the ground, he did the same again. I thought, consummate professional.
Yeah, Ben, that's just what I've suggested, an open training session and the players to sign stuff. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't sign everything, but at least it would be some kind of effort. Okay, just to lighten the mood a little bit, here comes the disclaimer. Tweet of the week, a lot from Jimmy Moore and Jimmy Wilson, a few from Peter Atkinson, and one or two from other people. If you haven't got your tweets on this week, by the way, don't worry, they will be featured on later shows. We're all getting a bit of a backlog now, but the disclaimer, as always, these are not endorsed by me, Mitch, Joe, or George. We literally just laugh at them.
But they make me by Steve Hasty.
If you're easily offended, please go and put the kettle on, or go outside and give the trick-or-treaters some sweets, because it is Tweet of the Week. And we'll start with a few signs. Please be patient with the bartender. Even a toilet can only serve one asshole at a time.
Oh, dear.
And this is a tech store. Our computer is down. We know, we had one job. Be right back, though, promise. And this guy at the swimming pool clearly was on the last job he had to do of the day. 5 feet deep. And a vegan option on the menu in this restaurant: taxi, train, bus, or e-scooter. I've always been a student of history, but I didn't know this, lads. Condom history. Interesting piece of history here. In 1802, the Kiwis invented the condom using a sheep's lower intestine. In 1822, the Aussies somewhat refined the idea by taking the intestine out of the sheep first. I did send that to one of my New Zealand friends this week. He did laugh and confirm it. I hate Fulham because I'm a Brentford fan. I hate Leeds because I'm a human being. This was a sticker found at a football match. That's excellent, isn't it? And made some dicks out of socks at Walmart. You're welcome. See, this is what Jimmy Moore does in his spare time. It's never wasted. Couple of social media tweets. This was great. The fact that the Louvre heist didn't take place at dawn, but at the very reasonable hour of 9:30 a.m. shows that even the French jewel thieves have a better work-life balance than us. And does anyone know how long a chicken lasts in the freezer? Was a Facebook post. Carl replied, I put one in last night. It was dead this morning. And one of these, I love these text ones. Hey, Sarah, you're probably still asleep. Feels weird to text you since we broke up, but I got to tell you something. Hey, Sarah's still sleeping. Give her a wild night. What do you want to tell her, loser? Tell him the HIV test came back positive. Thanks, champ.
Ouch.
And here's one of these lookalikes, Alan Sugar, pictured here on the set of Kraftwerk's Tour de France music, Boreham Wood, 1982. And hold on, I've got to get prepared for this one, lads. Wait a minute. Bear with it, it'll be worth it. I'm still here. I think I can still do this. Hold on.
What?
Anna, you. Right, there you go. I can still do it, look. I'm not in prison. I haven't been jailed. There we go. Daily Daffy. My therapist told me I can get over my fear of buffets, claims local woman. She told me, first you've got to want to help yourself. And I love guys with strange jobs. And here's one. This guy's been running a coloured pencil shop in Tehran for 30 years. The walls are covered with thousands of pencils, and he's the only one who knows where each one is.
Wow.
Hey, what a job. Unbelievable. I love birthday cakes. A lot of effort goes into making birthday cakes, anniversary cakes these days. Apparently, my mate's wife's not impressed with the cake I made for their celebration of their firstborn. In your honest opinion, have I overstepped the mark?
Oh, dear me.
And best Indian in Wigan, Deepak Anash, who lives on Frog Lane. He's a cracking bloke. I love putting on warm underwear fresh out of the dryer. Plus, it's fun to look around at the laundrette and guess who they belong to. And there was a band on in the pub last night. They do covers by Bad Manners and Madness, so they call themselves Badness. It's a good thing they don't do covers by Dire Straits and Chris Rea. And I got my friend a telepathic abacus. It's a thought that counts. And another one from the Daily Dafty. Debbie Harry's seen in the supermarket trying to reach for soap powder but was unsuccessful. She complained, "The tide is high, but I'm going on." And a couple of Star Trek ones for you. My nephew needs a job. Do you have any suggestions? He should apply for the search and rescue team. They're always looking for someone. And a shop assistant fought off a robber with his labelling gun. Wow, that's heroic. People are now looking for a man with a price on his head. Couple of Star Wars ones. I wouldn't tell anyone I won the lottery, but there will be signs.
Wow.
Oh,
Excellent,
yeah.
isn't it? Excellent. And only Star Wars fans will see it, lads.
Yeah.
My doctor said to spend 30 minutes a day on the treadmill. I told my taxidermist I wanted the squirrel mounted holding a nut, and this is what I get. And look, it's Katy Perry, say the clangers. Floor is lava, everyone. Pompeii, 79 AD.
Oh, God.
And Egyptian babies don't know what one day their daddy will become a mummy. And neither did the Kardashians, said Samantha.
Oh.
Old school costumes had it looking like a classroom full of serial killers ready to go on a purge. And what a cool way to make new friends with this new toilet design, lads. This was me back in the day going out running with me mum. And my current neighbour complained to the HOA about the visibility of my garbage can. So I fixed it. That's a typical American thing, that, Jimmy. Thanks for that. Another sign laid in, welcome to the Clit Forest Recreation Area. And why is it when your wife or girlfriend gets pregnant, all her friends rub her belly and say congratulations, but nobody rubs your dick and says good job? And a great T-shirt for Christmas there, lad. My pen is huge. How Geordie mothers tell their boys called James to eat properly. Jimmy Chew, man. And a UFO caught on tape, lads, finally.
Ooh.
And the teacher asked for an art project using recycled material.
Oh, God.
And a couple of Halloween ones to finish. This is how my house is set up tonight while I'm doing the show. Only joking, folks, only joking. And the finish with a cartoon. Let us make love, my darling. Here, in public. No one can see us, we're ghosts. The cat. Great stuff. If you've got any tweets to send us, which have to pass my vetting, by the way. I was telling Steve Hasty about the vetting procedure the other night. There's some of them just can't be used. Yes, nufcmatterspodcast@gmail.com. And I will do a disclaimer at the start because it's not our fault, it's not our responsibility, and we certainly don't endorse any of them. Steve Wraith singing, Marcus. I know you'll love it, mate. Don't worry, there's an album coming. Okay. Question, Mitch. Is Joelinton a thug?
I love the fact he now has the entire fan base of North London on, on tender. He's got them all on toast. Arsenal whinge about him, now Spurs whinging about him. I just can't believe the response that we're seeing. Is football changed that much that any suggestion of physicality needs to be removed from it? Is it become that precious? No, love it. I just love the fact, and long may it continue, that he has everybody on ice just like that. That's just great. It's a long time since we've had a player who has that effect on other fan bases. And I think that comment is right. I think we're right to raise question marks. I don't think he's had many great games. And contrary to what people are saying that he doesn't get carded, he does get carded. But he's another player, and I think Bruno's the same as this. I think they play better when they're on a yellow. I think it makes them focus. Because if he was that much of a thug, particularly in the modern age of VAR, he would have had a hell of a lot of red cards to his name, wouldn't you think? And no other fan base can say we're getting help from referees or anybody in football after we've had after we've literally had rule amendments named after our club. Get a life. So I think, for me, let them whinge, let them go on about it, let it be a distraction. Because while they're talking about that, and they're focusing on one of our midfielders, playing alongside him are two world-class midfielders, that they're forgetting on the main influence on how games work and how games are won.
Yeah, Andrew makes a good point. They should watch a bit of 70s football.
They've got no idea.
I had a couple of hours spare today, and I watched Bobby Moore, the documentary on Sky again with Bobby Moore, and it's a great documentary apart from the fact that Russell Brand's still in it. But it's great. Some of the challenges flying in on there, especially from the Argentinian team in that infamous game. That makes Joelinton look really soft. But yeah, I mean, Joe is it's been a hilarious debate online, that, and former commentator on this channel, Liam Kennedy, I saw getting a bit aerated on Twitter this week with various fans. It's why I don't enter into these kind of debates online anymore, because you waste 2 hours of your day. But it's been funny, and I wholeheartedly agree with Neil. It's great because they're completely forgetting about the likes of Tonali and Bruno, who are having the season of their lives again.
How I feel about him. It's a classic Roy of the Rovers story, isn't it? And fair play to the lads. Listen, against Kudus, it was a stupid tackle. It was almost a comical tackle. If you actually watch the event, he was trying to wrap his legs around him, trip him up, and kick him in the face all at the same time. I don't know what he was doing. But that's Joelinton, isn't it? He does brilliant things and he does ridiculous things, and that was another ridiculous thing. Kudus didn't agree with it, jumped up and had a pop at him. And of course, Joelinton said, "Excuse me, sir, I don't agree with that," and had a pop back. There was a bit of a handbags in the middle of the park, and then a couple of yellow cards, and we all got on with it. So what is your problem, Steve? Because I think some of these midfields, one could argue that that's possibly what Tottenham Hotspur were missing on Wednesday night. That bit of grit in the centre of the pitch. They had some lovely footballers who looked immaculate and played some tidy passes 10 yards. But other than that, Joelinton just came on and just started marauding around the place like he does, and that's his game. So does that make him a thug? It doesn't make him Lionel Messi, but it certainly doesn't make him a thug. It was a stupid tackle, and so be it. But he's winding people up. He's living rent-free in certain teams' heads, isn't he? And that's great because he's a Newcastle United player. And I'd rather have him in our midfield than against us, because I bet he's a nightmare. You've had some top footballers recently sort of talking about him, how difficult he is, how physical he is, There's a couple of times you see it. You saw it with Dan Burn as well. He's marauding at players, and they don't want to know. They're either pulling out or they're letting the ball go out to play, or they just don't want to get engaged in the tackle. And that's their hard luck, because you take that out of Joelinton's game, you're not going to have much left, really, are you? So I just think it's Big Joe. I think it's what he does. It's what he's going to continue to do. And what he lacks in quality, he makes up for in effort. So you keep putting the effort in, son, because I think he's Brazilian and I think he's effing brilliant.
George, we've seen some thugs in our time. I mean, Vinnie Jones stands out. Steve McMahon for Liverpool back in the late 80s was a thug as well. I mean, that I always point to that infamous cup final where, you know, the Culture Club beat were beaten by the Crazy Gang, and it was like, it was a wonderful challenge from that era from Vinnie Jones that wiped McMahon out, left him with a cut on his face. You never saw McMahon for the rest of the game, and Wimbledon went on to win that game.
Yeah, well, Steve, you and I just this week have been talking about some people at Newcastle United who could be labelled thugs. They certainly wouldn't like them today, and they're not unknown. You know, who used to like the face Joe Harvey? Not many people, I tell you. And if anybody got a bit spicy on the pitch against one of our players, Joe Harvey would sort them out. The notable one, which you and I have talked about recently, was that in an FA Cup tie against Huddersfield, the England right back was Ron Staniforth, and Bobby Mitchell was right on his dribbling game, and Staniforth tried to kick him over the lasers. Well, for 10 minutes after the start of the second half, Joe Harvey played outside left, and by the time Joe Harvey went back to his real position, Staniforth was limping. You know, it was that kind of thing. And then we had Schooler, Tommy Casey. You show me harder people than them and harder challenges than them, and I won't believe you. Compared to them, Joelinton is a starter. He's a selling player there. He's not a. He's tough, but there are people in the days gone by who could do a lot more damage than he does. And there's a little bit of me, although I don't want people to cheat deliberately and all that sort of thing. But on the other hand, if we've got a player that the manager in their dressing rooms got to single out and say to them, now watch this bloke, that's champion, because he's in their heads before they go on the bloody pitch. And any midfielder that's challenging him, and he has Joelinton's feet behind him, he's going to be wanting to get rid of that ball awfully quickly, which is wonderful for us and not so good for them. To be honest, the challenge that was the other night, I think Joelinton was lucky there wasn't VAR, to be honest. When you tackle in both, you get your opponent's body and scissors with both your legs, you're in danger of seeing red. But that's up to the referee. But I think had there been VAR, you might have seen different. But no, don't change, Joe. It's part of your game. It's part of our game. And as I say, if it's so bad for the fans, it'll be so bad that some managers will talk about it in their dressing room. And as soon as they mention them, it'll get in players' minds that this beast's going to be tearing at them all the game. And that can only be good for us. So, he's not a thug, just a tough player who wants to get on with the game and do it his way. And if you think of his journey, where he's come, having come as the 40 million centre forward and now being the international midfielder, only hard work's done that. And his reward for hard work is he's become a top player. And keep going, Joe's my message. We'll love it. We'll love it.
Hardest player you've seen at the club, Mitch? Who's your hardest player? I mean, there's a few names getting mentioned there in the chat. McCreery's in there. Johnny Anderson would be mine. I used to love watching a John Anderson tackle. I've got to be perfectly honest. But is the one that stands out for you?
Yeah, two names for me, McCreery and Anderson. I was doing a deal with Ando once, and he cracked a joke and he dug us in the leg with his elbow, playfully, and my leg was dead for about an hour after. And he's like, what were you like when you were playing? It was just unreal. What has said Joe taught to say? Yes, as hard as
he's as hard as goat's knees. Yes,
and seriously, never shirked a challenge. He is probably watching, doing his core commentary in the back of his mind, what he must be thinking about some of these players whinging about people being a thug. And he would have loved 5-10 minutes on the pitch with some of them. Because again, what my dad says is quite right. If a manager's going to go on and on and on about it, and it gets into dressing rooms, it will upset some players, because some players don't want none of that. It will take some players out of the game before you even crossed the white line. And so, yeah, let's go on. We've found yet another way to get inside other teams' heads. You know, we get accused of all sorts while other people are doing. If it wasn't time wasting, it's now being thugs. You know, it's like thinking, what the hell else are we going to get accused of? And you know what? If we're upsetting people that much, we must be doing plenty right. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing, lads.
Yeah, Dave. I saw Pope on the Fuzzcast. They asked him who he'd want in a fight from his teammates. He said Joelinton was number one without hesitation. But I mean, is there a hard man that stands out for you, Joe, in your time supporting Newcastle?
There's a few in there. I remember John Henderson, of course, and David McCreary. But I think I wouldn't have messed with Roy Aitken. I certainly wouldn't have messed with Brian Kilcline under any circumstances about anything ever. You know, that guy just looked like he'd run through you without any hesitation, didn't he? So, probably Killer Steve, I think, just because he just looked mean. He played the game, you know, he played the ball, the man and everything else, didn't he, when we had him, and he did a fantastic job. So, yeah, in a 50-50 tackle, I probably wouldn't go into it with him, I'm being brutally honest.
Okay.
But I tell you what as well, sorry, the other person as well who was no shrinking violet and was probably a bit tougher than he probably got credit for was Alan Shearer. You know, he's Wolves for one thing, but I tell you what, again, you know, the arms, the elbows. Obviously, you know, he tripped over Neil Lennon, didn't he, on the touchline, you know, and that was an unfortunate accident. But, I wouldn't fancy...
He was trying to get him to help him with his shoelace, Joe.
Yeah, he was, mate. Yeah, his shoelaces were undone. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Could have held Spence. Could have held Spence the other night.
Yeah, he could have done. Yeah. We've had a few, but a three-way between Big Al and Brian Kilcline, probably not for me, to be honest.
Steve Howie tells a great story about Alan Shearer. You talk about Shearer because it's a great shout. And in the particular game where Steve Howie had to mark Shearer when he was playing for Man City, he'd heard that Howie had an injection before the game to play. Obviously, Howie wanted to play against his old team, and of course, he was their best centre half at the time. And Alan, at one point, when there was a corner, was standing in front of Steve Howie, looking down at the ground. Trying to work out which was his left and right, so that he could stamp on the foot that he'd had the injection in. So Howie called him on it, pushed him away, and says, "I know what you're doing. You know, you can't even tell your left from your right." Anyways, the game progressed. Shearer then sticks an elbow out, as you've mentioned, Joe, and then Howie sticks an elbow out and he breaks Alan's nose. So that was that infamous game that Alan had to go off, get a bit of treatment, come back on, and he scores the winning goal. Shearer scores the winning goal. Anyway, at the end of the match, they went back into the players' lounge, and Steve Howie's at the bar and he's buying drinks for his family who'd gone along to watch him. And next thing you know, there's a seething pain in his foot. Alan's crept up from him behind the bar and stamped on his foot. For breaking his nose. Brilliant story from Steve Howie, that. But good stuff. He was a hard man. Joey Barton's getting a mention in the chat as well. He was a crackpot, wasn't he? Really? He stayed and got me back up. But I'd still say we would never have gone down if he hadn't got sent off at Anfield. George, give us your feelings on the hard man era. Well, you'll have a few from the past, of course. Lots of people shouting McNamee in the chat.
Neil and Joe have gone over quite a lot of the ones I would have done, and I've mentioned the early ones: Harvey, Schooler, Toby Casey, Charlie Crowe, all very tough, very hard. The fullback Bobby Cowell, you know, if you got tackled by Bobby Cowell's big legs, you were tackled. And a bit more modern in my memory is David Batty. He wasn't a shrinking violet. You know, I've seen some David Batty taking some really big guys out on the park, and then. Forwards, you mentioned in Shearer. I wouldn't like to play against Billy Whitehouse very often, or Ron McGarry. You know, they weren't very quick, but by hell, big thighs would take you out with a plum, as they say. So yeah, we're used to hard guys up here. We've seen plenty over the years, which makes Joelinton look like a selling player. I mean, compare Joelinton to somebody like Killer Kilcline. I mean, not in the same race, really. But just keep doing it, lads. If it's frightening them off, that's good for us.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we are halfway through the show. As always, it is time for an ad break. Here we go. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, three weeks to go until the Christmas do as well. Warren Barton will be there with Joe Allen. Adam Henderson, who's joining us on the show in about half an hour to debut his new single, will be playing a set. And we've also got Sid from Talk of the Tune coming along to DJ. So cracking night, £12 a ticket. All proceeds going to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. So get yourself along, get them off the website. And don't forget as well, get yourself to the merchandise. There is some nice Christmas ideas, some great signed merch on there if you want to buy that as well. Thank you. People do know that I like to see pictures of the old ground. George will appreciate this one as well. Great photo there. I've never seen that one. Different angle of the old West Stand, George. Great, that. I love that. Really, really good. And I picked this one up off one of the Newcastle Facebook pages that I'm on, and this is a rare shot of the old paddock. Really, yeah. I mean, I've not really seen it from that end. So that's obviously like the old East Stand on the right hand side.
Yeah.
So this is from the Gallagher West Stand paddock.
Yeah.
That's probably in front of that guy would be where the pylon used to be. But yeah, fantastic, and you can tell that's around about the 90s, the Keegan era, and you can tell by that kid's strip actually, and the brown ale bottle in the background.
Yeah, right. I think that's M Paddock.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I think that's where the season ticket holders at the Gallagher end were originally in.
Yeah, amazing. I love stuff like that. If you've got any old photos, do send them over to us on the email, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com.
The old one you showed, Steve, and I can remember when that was all wood before they put that tin plate on, the corrugated iron on. I can remember that was all wood. And inside the bit at the top of the stairs, which was the players' entrance, inside there was the boot room, where the big boiler was and where all the boots were, and where the boot cleaners, sometimes me, used to go in to clean the players' boots and that sort of thing. And not further along is the physio's room, all within that frontage on that picture. It was still there then when that was there.
amazing. I love stuff like that. And something that's completely un-Newcastle United related, but is from our period, lads, from when we started watching. How about this for a game?
Brilliant.
Now it's not the pitch that I'm looking at here, or the ball, or the tight shorts. It's the woman who's got a great view of the match, sitting side of the pitch in a mini.
Mini, aye.
Unbelievable. I wonder if the ball got stuck under the car at any point. I mean, that's a fascinating. I think it's Leicester against Watford, if I remember rightly. But that's back in the 70s.
White colours.
And a car sitting there at the side of the pitch. Brilliant stuff. So I love anything like that. If you see any of these photos or those kind of photos and you think they're relevant to the show, send them over to us by email. I really, really love it. Is it true that the old Gallagher steps under the new Gallagher end? Yes, Ben. It is true, that, mate. It is 100%. I think we showed a photo of that quite a few months back now on the show. Tight shorts are coming back, says Marcus. Well, there we go. Maybe we can go to one of those. You can stick them on, Marcus, and go to one of those dodging areas that Mozza was on about earlier on in the chat. She did misspell dodging, though, but I'm not going to go down that avenue. Okay. Before we, as I say, Adam Henderson's coming on around about 6:30. Looking forward to having him on later on to talk about his new single. We'll play out with that tonight. Goalkeepers are in the news, Mitch, and we had a wonderful performance. His second game from Ramsdale. Wonderful performance. And for somebody who had nothing to do in the second half, to pull off that excellent long full-length save was nothing short of superb. And, for me, there's not much difference between the two of these lads. What's your thoughts on Ramsdale, and would you like to sign him permanently at the end of the season?
100%. Seems to be integrated into the squad very well. He again, we're talking about Tonali and how he was kept integrated in the squad by doing a lot of the social media stuff during his ban. If you look at a lot of the social media stuff that's done, Ramsdale's very much part of that and very much part of the squad, and obviously seems well liked. I think his presence is keeping Pope keen. I've got no doubt that Pope gets into training every day and knows he has to be absolutely at the top of his game to keep Ramsdale out, because when you look at what he did do, it's quite clear everybody's more confident with Ramsdale with the ball at his feet. Some of his starting positions on the other night, I think, were excellent. Superb. I would dare say better than Pope's. He pulled off not one, I think he pulled off two good saves, really. He made another block not long after that full length save that I think was equally as good in some respects. For a player who's been accused of losing concentration and switching off in games, well, he certainly didn't do that the other night. And when he commits to something, he looks more positive in terms of mindset than Pope.
Yeah.
There is not a hesitation.
Yeah.
There was one point where he come further out of the area, chested the ball, but by the time he cleared the ball, he was almost in midfield. But he'd made his mind up that he was going to do that. I think he's been handled poorly by other managers. And I do think if he gets a chance to go into the team, if the roles were reversed, I think Pope would struggle to dislodge him long term. I really do think that's how impressive he's looked in the opportunities he's had. Now, it's up to Eddie to keep him keen, to keep his mindset right, and to keep him on an understanding that if he does get into the first team for any prolonged period, that he has an opportunity to claim the first team place as his own, full stop. But we're in an era where every player, I believe, understands it's an era of rotation, and even for goalkeepers. And so I think it's easier to keep a so-called second string goalkeeper happier these days. And I really do think as a pair, we're getting it's almost like a synergistic relationship. They're making each other better. And so, really impressed with him. And I would, if there isn't a deal in place to turn his loan into a permanent, I would love to see we negotiate that, because, like I say, I also think he seems to be well liked by the other squad members, and that's really important too.
Yeah, I would agree with you, mate. Ken Robinson, there you go. There's the email, mates. Get your email over with the photographs you think people might enjoy. That would be great. Yeah, Joe, he's been great. Ramsdale only played 2 games. Looks like he's been there for years. And yeah, certainly given the Popester some competition, isn't he?
Yeah, he didn't. He certainly doesn't look like he's only played 2 games, does he? He looks like he's been there for ages. Is the save you're talking about, Steve? I had a lovely view of it, and it was an absolute cracker. And as you say, he hadn't done a massive amount, or he hadn't had to do a massive amount, should I say? And he was there, and he got a very, very strong hand on it, and it was a cracking save. I like this distribution. I like the fact that Dan Burn was popping up in some rather unusual positions, and I think that when we had a goal kick, and I think the reason for that was that he knew he was going to get found with the ball, and more times than enough, he did get found with the ball. As Mitch said, the starting positions were good. You know, there was control on the chest. He was out. He was taking control. He was clearing what he needed to. He was catching what he needed to. His punches were strong. They were going, out of the area. And one of the other things I thought was really, really interesting was the way that he was talking to the defence. Your number 2, dare I call him. He certainly wasn't shy in telling Dan Burn what he was thinking, or Malik Chow, or he was actually dictating a lot of the play as well. So all in all, fantastic. I've said it before, and in fairness, I've said it about Nick Pope. You don't get to be an England goalkeeper if you're rubbish. So they have something, and fortunately for us, we've got 2. But I do have to say, as impressive as Ramsdale's looked, as solid as he's been, Nick Pope hasn't done anything wrong. We've had a couple of dodgy kicks, haven't we? But it's almost expected, unfortunately, for Nick Pope. But in terms of the saves that he's made, in terms of the clean sheets that he's kept, we can't fault it, Steve. So I think, as Mitch has said, the challenge really is, how do you keep Aaron Ramsdale interested? Because surely he's good enough to be a number 1 somewhere in the Premier League. Nick Pope's just recently executed a contract extension, I'm led to believe. So Nick Pope ain't going anywhere. So it's up to Ramsdale, it's up to Eddie Howe, isn't it? And the guys, is he going to be your Carabao Cup goalkeeper, a little bit like Martin Dubravka was? But then when it comes to the final, we all saw what Nick Pope did against Liverpool. He was outstanding there. We have got a Champions League campaign. It does look like Pope is the number 1. And I guess it's up to Ramsdale to wrestle the jersey off him, but he's certainly going about it the right way. He's been excellent. So I think for once there's that assurance and reassurance. As good as Dubravka was in pockets, we've got 2 excellent goalkeepers, and I think, like other positions, look at the players we brought in off the bench. All of a sudden now Newcastle have got a squad that's worthy of competing, and we haven't been able to say that for a long time, and that now includes the goalkeepers. So it can only be good, can't it? Long may it continue. But I thought he was brilliant. Yeah,
me too. George, you can't help but be impressed by our second goalkeeper at the moment. A lot of people, people saying, can we keep him happy, etc. But you know what? He looks happy, George. I think he feels like he's at home, and listening to what Eddie said, at the press conference again, because he was asked today about, how do you keep Shaw and Botman happy? How do you keep the 2 goalkeepers happy? Well, he's integrated well. He's a good character, and he just genuinely looks happy to be here, George. It almost looks like he's come home. That's what it looks like.
Just follow on to what Neil said about social media things. They involve him in it all, and he's absolutely superb, and you can see he's well liked and integrated, and having laughed with the rest of the lads like they all do. these stupid things that Uzula does in training, and he joins in them as well, and all part of it. But his performance the other night was a 10 out of 10 for me. He did everything right, even his saves. The important thing for me about the saves, they were good saves, but he also was aware to make sure the ball didn't bounce back into a danger area. It went out for a corner, or it went somewhere where it wasn't in danger, and that takes a lot of managing. I mean, the winning goal for us in the previous game only came because the goalkeeper pushed the ball. Fulham goalkeeper pushed the ball back out into the danger area, and Bruno banged it in. Well, with our goalkeeper the other night, he was making sure those saves didn't cause him difficulty, and he was positive. As Joe said, he made moves for things. He out chesting, out heading the ball if it needed to be done, just telling the defenders to get out the way. That's the sort of confidence you want in a goalkeeper. And again, Joe mentions the way Dan Burn was able to disrupt them because he knew the ball was going to end on his head. And a number of times it set up an attack because Big Dan got a kick from the goalkeeper right onto his head. Now, they have tried that a couple of times with Nick Pope, and the ball's gone out for a throw-in, so we're round about the corner flag. Never even touched Dan Bird. So there's that little bit still about the footwork. But again, following on from what Joe says, Nick Pope's done nothing wrong. He's performed as well as ever he has when people had all sorts of doubts. And I mean, after that mammoth throw to get the goal for Barnes, there's certainly no wrong with his shoulder now, is there? If you can throw the ball 65 metres in one go, you're not worried about the dislocated shoulder. So we're very fortunate. In some ways, a bit just sad for Ramsdale because there's obviously a place at number one somewhere, but one's got to wonder why other people didn't fancy him. Well, I don't care about what other people fancy. If we can get him at a reasonable price, I'm not saying any price, but a reasonable price, then we should do it. It's a done deal, and that's one position sewed up for the next 5 years, I would suggest. I
think he was properly shafted by Arteta.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And,
yes.
That's the try left to answer reporters' questions in a way where he was almost humiliated.
Yes. I think that's the root of the problem, no doubt about it. So,
and I think what is good to see is that doesn't seem to be affecting him now. The evidence of what I see, both on the pitch, but again with the social media stuff and things like that. Because I think his treatment at Arsenal, I think, was terrible.
It was appalling, and but as I say, if there's a deal to be done, we should take it because that would be our goalkeeping position. I would suggest for the next 5 years because yes, Pope took the year's extension. Well, if he's still playing as well as this at the end of that period, I can't see him going anywhere again. Even if he's got to occasionally be number 2 instead of number 1, he's still going to enjoy being at Newcastle United. So, and certainly Ramsdale as well. So I think we're in a good position. And
I asked this the other night, but I mean, if we do get to the final, it's presumptuous. We're in the quarterfinals. There's still games to go. If we got to the final again, George, would you play him in the final, Ramsdale?
If he's played in all the rounds and played as well as he did the other night, I would say yes. He's deserved. He's deserved. I mean, Pope will still get a medal because he's going to be on the bench, won't he? It's not as though he's not going to get a medal. So
he's already got one from last year as well. So he's, he doesn't want to be greedy.
I would be inclined to, if he takes all the way at the final, I'd be inclined to leave him in for the final.
Same for you, Joe?
I'd play whoever was in form the most at the time of the game. And what do you mean if we get to the final? It's happening.
Yeah. Well,
get them changed.
Yeah.
What about you, Mitch?
Seems to be a trend. at the minute in football that if you have a cup goalkeeper, he plays all the way through, and you wouldn't be worried about that. I think that's the biggest difference with this situation. I don't think anybody would go into a final with Ramsdale in goal being upset or concerned about his presence in goal. So I think that's again, it's testimony to the squad that we're building.
Yeah. And can we just say credit to our old goalkeeper, our former goalkeeper, Martin Dubravka, who had a great game last weekend for Burnley, winning valuable points for Burnley, wearing his Carabao Cup final gloves. Shows that he's still got Newcastle United in his heart. But there they are, the Carabao Cup final gloves still firmly on Dubravka's hands. But great to see him doing really well.
We've had a few good games for them, Steve. He's been playing really well.
Yeah. It's amazing. Listen, it was the right time to get rid of him. It was the right time for him to go. He was a great servant to Newcastle United, but he's another one who fell in love with the area, and it's been absolutely brilliant to watch his progress at Burnley. Really has been great stuff. Okay, I did promise you Adam Henderson would join us tonight because he's got a single out, so we'll bring Adam on. He is a Tyne fan. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good, Steve. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, mate. Good to see you, mate. And those of you who are watching the podcast tonight will know that Adam has been to a couple of our do's. He was the lead singer of a band called Lilac Lane, but he's decided to go off on his own now. So what prompted that, Adam? Is it just a change of direction for you? Did you feel you could perform a bit better? Are you hoping to follow on the coattails, I guess, of some of the big acts who have come out of the Northeast in recent times, like the likes of Sam Fender?
Yeah, it was one of them. It was just creative differences, if you say so. Although the three lads in the band are absolutely spot on, although they are Macums, but that's a story for another day. It was just where it was a conversation had. I had a different vision of what they had, and thankfully I've managed to write the song that's just came out today. So happy days.
Good stuff. So what's the song called?
It's called If Time Gave In, and it's out on every music platform you can think of at the minute.
Good stuff. And what's the song about, Adam?
So it's a bit of a story about my personal life, some of my friends, both male, female, and it's just about their different versions of love throughout the years and what I've kind of went through, and just piece it all together and make somewhat of a song of it.
Good stuff. And I mean, is it easy for you to write songs? Do you find it easy? Do you write from personal experiences? How does the process work?
It's normally trying to write some lyrics, and then I'll try and play about on the guitar, and hopefully something comes together. There's some days I can write, and I'll come out with 3 or 4 different versions of the same song. There's other days I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, thinking where the next song is going to possibly come from. But no, it's a bit of a process sometimes.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. And you've got some gigs coming up. Do you want to give them a plug as well?
Yeah, of course. So I'm supporting Mark Morris from the Blue Tones on the 20th of December, which is the night before my first big headliner down at the Clooney. All that's in aid for the Alan Shearer Foundation, so all the proceeds will go to there. I've got 3 amazing support acts. I've got a local band called Stella Casta, young Joe Bartley, who was the lucky young lad who got to go on stage with Sam Fender back in the summer. And then the brilliant Josh Webb, who was just on at City Hall the other day, supporting Andrew Cushion. So it's going to be an absolutely fantastic night. And then the next big one for us from there, it's making me City Hall debut when I support Bad Manners. Something that's on the bucket list. So not every day someone gets to go home and tell their mum and dad, tell their partners that they've been playing at City Hall. So yeah, really looking forward to the next few bits we've got coming up.
Yeah, good stuff. And you're a Newcastle fan, mate, although you get to as many games as you can, but you're also involved in local football. But you must be pleased with the way Newcastle have started this season.
Oh, yeah. Like, looking at the result the other night in the Cup, I think it just shows even the depth in the squad now. I think from those couple of seasons ago when we had to play the same 11 for how many games off the bounce, it shows that we've got that rotation. When you've been playing football yourself and when you've been like through academy levels and things like that, you know what the stress can be on a squad just to get out there and play sometimes. I think Eddie Howe's very resourceful and he uses what he's got at the time, like sort of Dan Burn at left back, and then having to play Fabian Schär because of Botman being injured. I think 2 seasons ago it would have been a youngster, and then we might have been caught out.
And what's your involvement in local football? Who are you involved with?
So I was helping out with writing in the Northern League in pre-season. Those who've ever been involved in Northern League football semi-pro, it does take up a hell of a lot of time. So I am back with local team Henderson United. Very much a family-run club. Got kids from under 5s all the way up to senior football. Been with them on and off for the past 5 years. So yeah, very, very supportive of the music as well. So it's always good.
Good stuff, mate. Great, excellent. Well, we're going to play the single at the end of the show. We're going to play out with it tonight. But where can people get it? Just give us a name check for the single again, and then just tell us where people can download it.
So it's If Time Gave In. It's out on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple Music, wherever you can find it. You'll be able to see it on there. On Spotify, just type in my name, Adam Henderson, and it'll be there for you. And it's also the music videos live on Facebook and Instagram too.
Yeah, it's a great video. Get yourself onto those various download sites, and please download it. Adam's a very talented lad, and he is at the Clooney. Tickets are £15. So if you're doing nothing on the 21st of December, get yourself along. Joe Bartley, Stella Caster, Josh Webb supporting him. It's for some very good causes. So make sure you get yourself along. Tickets are only £15, and download the single. I'm sure we'll have Adam back on the show again. But for now, Adam, thanks very much, mate. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Good luck,
Cheers,
mate.
Adam.
Thanks.
Great
Good luck.
stuff. Good to have him on. He's a great, talented lad, and we'll be giving him as much support as we can. So looking forward to seeing Adam in the future. Okay, it is time to start looking ahead to the big match on Sunday. Newcastle United, of course, travelling down to West Ham United, who aren't in the best of form at the moment, it has to be said. And those of you who've watched the show most of the week will know that I always start, usually Wednesday, looking ahead to it. Well, we now have a little bit more meat on the bones as far as team news is concerned from Eddie's press conference. Asula will continue to play. Obviously, he's resting his ankle. He's had a little bit of bother with his ankle, but he is going to be okay to play on Sunday. As for Johan Wissa, well, it looks like after the international break now for Wissa, Eddie playing his cards close to his chest, certainly not going to rush the lad back. Hopefully, this is a great move to it means he won't go to the African Cup of Nations. That's what we've got to hope for. But anyway, he's not going to be fit for this game this weekend. Lewis Hall sounds like he is close, potentially could be on the bench on Sunday. Tino Livramento, this game is certainly going to come too soon for him. Unfortunately. West Ham United, well, Callum Wilson, he's only scored 1 goal for his club in the 6 Premier League appearances for West Ham. He's only had 1 start. He's failed to score in any of his first 5 outings against Newcastle during his time as a Bournemouth player as well. There's an interesting stat. West Ham have lost all 4 of their Premier League home games so far this season, and if you add their run at the back end of last season, well, that's 5 in total. It's the first time since 1931 that they've suffered this kind of run at home. The referee is Robert Jones in the 2:00 kickoff, which is live on Sky Sports, and VAR is back after having a midweek rest. Paul Howard is in charge of VAR. As always, we have our regular little slots. First up, Tune Stattle.
Hello there. 3 consecutive home wins in 3 different competitions for our beloved Newcastle United. And on Sunday we are playing away from home at West Ham, who are struggling big time this season in the Premier League. Actually, Newcastle has their best away record in the Premier League against West Ham, both at the London Stadium and also at Upton Park, their previous stadium. 12 wins in the Premier League era. Now, West Ham have lost all 4 of their home games this season, and they also lost their last home game of last season. 5 consecutive home defeats, something that hasn't happened to them since 1931. At the same time, Newcastle is undefeated in the last 6 away games at West Ham, and overall they have lost only twice in the last 12 games, both home and away, against West Ham. Actually, both defeats were at St. James's Park, including one last season. Now, when it comes to their defense, West Ham have the weakest defense and defensive record in the Premier League. They have conceded 20 goals. At the same time, Newcastle are something of masters of late goals, with 7 of their last 13 in the Premier League coming in the last 15 minutes of a game, including Bruno Guimaraes' winner last week against Fulham. Mentioning Bruno, he has scored already 3 goals in 8 games in the Premier League, and for the whole of last season, he managed 5, so he's very close to matching his record. Now, Callum Wilson can face Newcastle. Actually, when he was a Newcastle player, he never faced Bournemouth, his previous club. And when he was a Bournemouth player, he never scored against Newcastle. So let's see if he'll be able to do anything on Sunday. So far, he has 1 goal in 6 games for West Ham. Newcastle is on a run of 7 away games without a win, including 4 games without scoring a goal. So it's high time we improve on this. How are the lads?
Thank you, Andre. And Andre is busy recording his stuff for next week as well, because we are doing the Amigos next Tuesday, folks. So it'll be Tuesday night, 5 o'clock till 7 on Tuesday. It's just a little heads up. Shows, I did warn you, would be all over the place next week. The Amigos is on Tuesday. Okay, here's Scunny Mag's run around the grounds.
Hi folks, Scunny Mag Paul here with another away day guide. This one is for the London Stadium. If you're making the trip down to watch us take on West Ham, everything you need is coming up. Okay, West Ham. For those of you coming on train, you've got the overground service, which has now been named and coloured. So it's the double striped blue line called Mildmay, and that actually terminates where you need to be at Stratford. And you can pick that up at various points around the city. If you prefer to use the tube, the Central and Elizabeth lines run into Stratford Underground Station. Your Elizabeth line is probably fastest, but it picks up at less points. And all of those leave pretty much a 15 to 20 minute walk to the ground. There is a stop just before Stratford called Hackney Wick, and that's handy for some of the pubs. If you're driving in, there's a large amount of parking above the Westfield Mall, and your postcode for it is E21EJ, with the what 3 words of Property Haven to get you to the entrance to the car park. And if you are parking there, that's also Stratford International Station that the overground services terminate at. You've got a single away friendly pub called the Tap East, which is about the size of 2 postage stamps, one inside, one out. Clear Move Quench will get you just outside the beer garden, but I think once most people find that, they head up to the ground because it's going to take a long time to get served. But the stadium does have plenty of options once you've gone through security, so you should be able to get a few drinks in there. But failing that, if you do get off the Hackney Wick overground stop, it's more of a relaxed kind of atmosphere. There's mixed fans mingling around, a bit of a hipster area, but it's alright for a drink on a match day. As you come in from the city, you'll be on the north platform, exit the station from there, head straight up the road, you'll find the Beer Merchants tap. Cuts bought badly, it'll get you to the front door, and that's a decent size. But as you head towards the ground from there, under the railway line, immediately as you come out the other side, turn left there and head straight along, you'll find a little courtyard with a few eateries and bars in there. One of them's the Howlin' Hops Brewery, also known as the Tank Bar. That's just on your right as you get in at Magic Photo With. And then a little further on towards the end of that courtyard, the Crate Brewery and Pizzeria. Mini Duck Body will get you to the front of that. When you are ready to head up the ground, you want to be on the southwest corner. You'll go through one of the outer security checkpoints. Agrees Flying Zones will get you to the away fans entry, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Great stuff, Gunny Mark. Thank you very much for that. Safe trips to everybody going down. Should be a good game. Looking forward to it. So, Mitch, over to you first. What do you feel about this game at the weekend?
Well, opportunity, isn't it? Opportunity to press on and build and keep going. Improve the away record a little bit. As you know, from with Stu being over the other weekend, and we know quite a few of the West Ham lads over here. We watched the game against Leeds with them and blinked and they were 2-0 down. And the guy, we know, I know quite well the chairman of the West Ham Supporters Club out here is a patient of mine. And he would have given Paul a wonderful what 3 words for the West Ham Stadium. He described them as, what was it, disorganised, disheartened and disinterested. And that's damning from a guy who's West Ham to the core. It sounds like they're in an absolute state. And they're a club in a real state of malaise. And they don't seem to be able to do much about it. And so let's keep them down there. I know we historically used to be the problem solver. Your centre forward's not scored in 6 games. Don't worry, we're along next week. They'll sort that out. What you mean you've not won at home for the last 10 games? We're coming around your place next week. That'll be fine. We don't do that anymore. And we've got some own records of our own to make. And so there's no reason, there's not a damn thing we should be frightened of going there. So, you know, I think we'll play to our strengths, play to the ability that we know we have. And I would like to see this be the first time that we see Bruno get one over his good mate, because I think it's about time we saw that. Paqueta seems to always find a way to nullify Bruno a little bit in the games against West Ham, but he seems to have been playing almost up front on his own, and I cannot work the team selections and the formations out. Neither can the West Ham fans over in this part of the world either, by the way. So there's a lot. You know, there's a lot of opportunity for there, and certainly nothing to be frightened of.
No. Okay, have you got the dice this week?
I have got the dice this week.
Good stuff.
And the dice says 0-1, so we'd keep the run going.
Would do, certainly would. And what about you?
I think there's more to be had than that, and I think I'll go for a reverse penman, as it were, 1-3.
Yeah, I went for 3-0 on Gibbo and Supermac show last night, and they went 3-0 as well. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Everyone for the first time, I'm expecting goals, and I'm expecting Newcastle to be amongst them quite heavily on Sunday. So we will wait and see. I was busy downloading a photo from an email that somebody sent, which I will feature tonight on the show. That's why I didn't do this. Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm coming to you live tonight from our mum and dad's. I've been sat in the kitchen. I've had no cup of tea, no sandwich. They sat on their asses in the room next door watching NUFC Matters. I'm clamming in it. Evening, mother. So let's get on with it then. West Ham United. They are just under 4-1 to win a game of football at home. The draw is 3-1, and Newcastle United are out of sight favourites at 13-20. So you got to put 20 quid on to get 13 back. Massive favourites. 1-0 Newcastle, 6-1, 2-0, 7-1, 2-1 Newcastle, 13-2. And the Penman, Mitch, you can have 12-1 tonight if that's what you think the score will be. 0-0, 11-1, ones each, 6-1. 1-0 West Ham is 12-1, and that's the same for a 2-1 defeat as well. The best striker in world football at the minute is even money to score any time in the game, which I think is really good value given the form that he's in. So if you fancy Big Nick on Sunday, get on to William Hill. They will give you evens as we sit here now. Sandro Tonali 15-4, and Big Dan, it's definitely coming. Big Dan 9-1. Ben, saw your message right at the start of the show in terms of the prices for Callum Wilson. He is actually the favourite of the West Ham players to score any time in the game. He is just under 3-1 to score against us. And a player that I wish played for Newcastle every time I see him, Jared Bowen, he's the same price as well. So 14-5 if you think they will score. And Bruno's mate is 4-1 to score against us. 6-1 if you think there'll be a red card in the game, given Joelinton's thuggery on Wednesday night. And the North East treble is very doable, I believe, this weekend. We've got England's finest team, Sunderland. They're at home to Everton. Obviously, we play West Ham. That's very winnable. And Middlesbrough go to a very poor Watford side. So if you think all three North East teams will win this weekend, you can have 10-1 for that. Please gamble responsibly. Please don't throw your money away. It's getting towards Christmas. But get your money on a Newcastle win, because I think it's coming.
Okay, good stuff. George?
Yeah, well, it's ours to lose, in my opinion. You know, it's nicely poised for us to go down and do the business, and I can't see why we shouldn't. They've got players we need to be cautious of. Paqueta on form, still a dangerous player, although for me, he's not on form often enough. That's why I'm glad we didn't buy him. But the one player Joe's mentioned already, who do need to keep a sharp eye, Jared Bowen. He has a habit of always doing his best for his team. And when he's really on song, he's a difficult person to keep quiet. So, but they're the only negatives I've got. As I say, where I started, it's ours to lose, and I'm be very disappointed if we don't get 3 points. And like you, I'm was before you mentioned it, I was on a 3-0 victory forecast because I can't see how we can't. And we have certainly bought ourselves a centre forward. That header the other night to beat the goalkeeper do it when he might have got punched in the face or the defender could have bumped into him. He just ignored all that and got on with the job and headed it in the back of the net. That's the kind of centre forward player I love. It's absolutely fantastic. Speaks volumes for him. And I would be disappointed if he doesn't get a goal. 3-0.
3-0 is the popular scoreline. Yeah, definitely. Anthony, listen, I'm not going to be able to cover this tonight, but he says, having served 23 years in the British Army, how come the stadium staff can't get a minute's silence after the last post sorted? Apology for the whinge. Yeah, football's changing so much, and I think crowds are as well. As soon as the people walked onto the pitch, the various servicemen, people are clapping and that. It does kill the moment a little bit. But point made, well made as well. And Ken Robinson, who's in the chat, thank you to Ken. He sent us some photographs, which is what I was downloading. He says, as I put up before, I was talking to my very old friend Stuart the other day. It was his 74th birthday on Wednesday. Little known fact, but Stuart was not only a brilliant right winger, but also a brilliant 10-pin bowler. I knew Stuart from then, as I played in the same 10-pin league as him at the West Road in Newcastle. Here's Stuart as we all remember him, and here's Stuart as he is now. So there we go. And he was also at Ken's wedding. So thank you for sending that in, Ken. Much appreciated. Value stuff like that. It's great when we hear like how old players are doing, because he is one of those who seems to have disappeared into the ethos, and I hadn't heard a great deal about him. So I've sent you an email back, Ken, anyway, so thank you very much for that. If you do want to send an email, nufcmatterspodcast@gmail.com is how you get in touch with us week to week. Okay, we have got time for one of these. The day I met, we're asking you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And Michael sent us this one in. The day I met Bez at the fan park on the quayside, England versus Scotland. There we go. And as I said, Bez does like a drink when he goes to these affairs. So Dubai Mags, watch out. Lock up your Jägermeister and all of that. But thank you very much. If you do want to send one of those in and have it featured on the show, it's the usual email address, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com. And that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will be back in the morning, 10 o'clock, with Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Football Podcast. And on Sunday, it's a pre-recorded version of the professionals. There'll just be me and Stu on. And might even do it as an Ask Penman. Mitch is very busy this weekend. And I'm going to West Ham. And I haven't got time to do one live on Sunday. So it is essentially a pre-record on Sunday. Back on Monday with a fans forum. But next week, I'll have to announce that on Sunday, on the pre-record on Sunday, let you know exactly where we're going to be. But don't forget, Amigos fans, we are back next Tuesday night, 5 o'clock until 7. Thanks, everybody. Take care, Mitch. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
Good to see you all.